potential season update.
Okay, I'm moving on quickly because I know people are hungry. Basically, we gave you the handout and we gave you copies of NRSs and NACs that show that we've properly identified black bears as a big game animal. And there's also wording in here that tells you how much you can charge. The fee cannot exceed resident or non-resident established fees that are already shown above for the other big game animals. So it looks like the NRSs and NACs are in place. And the only thing that would be missing is if we wanted to have pursuit by dogs. That's not currently legal for pursuing big game or pursuing bears, or we'd have to define that. And I brought Carl Lackey is here today, our bear biologist. And so I'm going to have Carl go through some background information for you quickly, so you have a better feel for the bear issue. So come on, Carl.
Excellent.
Anything you ever wanted to know about bears, Carl's the man. So he's been working with bears and bear researchers for most of his career. So he can give you a lot of good information. You can go ahead and use that one.
Oh, that's the signal. See, I just got that one here.
Yeah, this.
All right, Chairman, thank you. Commissioners, I'm going to go through this pretty quickly. I know everyone's anxious to get out of here, but back in June, you guys had asked for specific information on establishing a black bear season, and I was tasked with coming up with that information for you. As Larry said, we know it's classified as a game animal, a protected species. We established, or we wrote a conflict policy for dealing with nuisance bears back in 1998, and have recently completed our black bear management plan this year in 2010. NRS 501-102 again clearly states that hunting is a legitimate use of the black bear resource, and yet we have no season yet established. So what I'm going to give you is basically the biological capacity. Can we hunt bears in Nevada? Biologically, I think is one of the big questions, and then whether or not there's a desire from our public to hunt black bears. I'll talk about the biological part, and I'll leave the public part to you guys. Real quickly, get everybody on the same page. Historic range. We did have black bears across Nevada. We know from historical documents in the 1800s, early 1900s. Due to various reasons, they were extirpated probably by about 1920, 1930 through most of that range. Current range is limited for viable populations, I should say, to far western Nevada. And I don't have the California map on there, but visualize the California and the rest of the Sierra Nevada along that border as well. And we'll be discussing that here in a little bit. Other mountains where we have viable populations, the Sweetwaters, the Virginia Mountains, the Pine Nuts, of course, and Mount Grant over in the Wasatch by Hawthorne. All the information I'm going to be giving you on population status has been derived from the captures that I've made over the last 14 years. Sample size of 465 individual bears handled since 1997, 793 times. It's quite a database for a large carnivore. We have marked 293 individual bears and deployed 85 collars over that time. Our population estimates are based on, our latest population estimate is valid of about 2 weeks ago. We have 3 estimates over the last 20 years. Goodrich and Stiver, back in 1992, they were studying bears from 1987 through about 1990, kind of getting some baseline data for bears in Nevada. John Beckman and I established another population estimate in 2002, about 10 years later, based on our research, 180 animals, and the current estimate at 253. Now granted, you can't go out and count bears, as everybody knows, so a population estimate of 200 to 300, I think, is valid. And I will also mention that it's very, very conservative. A lot of these mathematical models that we use, and for the most part mark and recapture models, assume randomness in the sample. And a lot of our captures, a lot of our sampling is not random. It's behaviorally biased towards urban bears. So when I say 200 to 300, that is a very, very conservative estimate. Again, when you compare it to California's population, they estimate their population right now at 35,000 bears statewide. And I think for not the coastal regions, but for the Sierra Nevada, for sure, our population is probably an artifact of theirs, of the much larger Sierra Nevada bear population. All that data, what it basically gives us, and you've asked if we can biologically hunt bears in this state, looking at life history traits. Our wild populations are stable or increasing. I can say that with assuredness. A lambda of 1, and lambda is basically your finite rate of increase. And over the years, our models have told us, most recently the current population model has told us that is increasing. And again, that is conservative estimate. For reasons that I could explain, I won't go into, but it is a conservative estimate. More than likely increasing in a slight degree. Urban females are more fecund, meaning urban females have more female cubs than wildland bears. They also experience a higher rate of mortality. So some of our urban areas, because of the trash issue, have become population sinks. Wild females are reproducing at or above maintenance levels. We're going to be looking at recruitment rates in a model coming up. Haven't done that yet, but again, finite rate of increase shows that they are increasing. Our population is male biased, about 2 to 1, and there could be some reasons for that. More than likely, it's because our population is on the far eastern edge of, again, that greater population that we share with California, and carnivores on the fringe will tend to be male biased because males are dispersals, or at least that's one of the assumptions we're making. Adult survival, again, 0.88 for adult survival, more than capable of maintaining the population. And as most people are probably already aware, our highest densities are in the Carson Range. I mentioned the pine nuts and the Sweetwaters and Virginia mountains. Marginal habitat populations aren't as high, even though we do have populations there, but where the majority of our bears are in the Carson front. Stable to increasing bear population. Okay, some other indications that, if we get away from the science, and we start to look at some of the anecdotal information. This is what a lot of people refer to. People see more bears, so they automatically assume that there are more bears. That's our complaint data going back to 1987, and each column is a 5-year window. From 1987 to 1991, we averaged about 20 bear complaints a year. 1992 to 1996, we averaged 34. Well, look at 2008 to 2010, we're up over 300 complaints per year on the average. And I will mention that I did not include the year 2007 in here because that anomaly year we had 1,500 complaints. I didn't think it was fair to keep that in there. But it shows a steady rise in the number of complaints. Some more anecdotal information. We know, I've been marking bears since 1998. California has just started doing this in the greater Tahoe area on their side in the last year. But over the years, we've had our marked bears show up in some pretty obscure places, which not really surprising when you're looking at large carnivores, but then on the other hand, I guess it is. 80 miles north of Susanville, we've had marked bears go up there. Clear over the Sierra Nevada into the Sacramento Valley, into Auburn. Markleyville, that's not a very stint for a black bear, but still, they're traveling around. Walt Mandeville, who you guys heard from just a few minutes ago, reminded me that he had a bear go from Washoe Valley down to Lone Pine, California, years and years ago. So they do get around, and the arrow indicates migration or immigration from California into Nevada. And although we don't have DNA to show that, and they don't tag bears, it's a pretty safe assumption that the bears in the Tahoe Basin are moving back and forth. It's a pretty fluid population. I've even had at least one bear go clear up to Oregon. We had a bear from Washoe Valley go clear up to Lakeview, Oregon, and get killed by an Oregon hunter up there. So they do move around. All those little red dots up there are, again, anecdotal information, but they are confirmed sightings that we've had across the state. Most of those, or almost all of them, are back into historic habitat. Jarbidge, down by Caliente, the Via Rim up in northern Washoe County. We had a bear out here in Fallon a few years ago, one in Tonopah. Most of those, if you were to have a map of bear populations in other states around there, most of those sightings are probably from bears moving in from other states into those areas. But nonetheless, it indicates possibly an expanding population, or if nothing else, immigration into Nevada. And on the rare occasions where we've been able to capture those bears, most of them have been younger males, which again indicates dispersal. Bear mortality since 1997, that total 278 documented bear mortalities. Bears do die from natural causes, but it's not documented. 278 over the years. You can see that most of those are from hit by cars, road mortalities. I want to drive down to the second one, public safety concerns. We've killed, it's actually now a little bit higher in the last couple of days, 83 or 84 bears for public safety concerns in the state. We're averaging, since 1997, we have averaged 23 bear mortalities per year for human-caused reasons. Public attitude toward bear hunting. Again, I'll just touch on this. Out of the lower, well, including Alaska, 27 states allow recreational harvest of black bear. Nevada is the only western state without a bear season. We also have the smallest population of just about any state, I believe. New Jersey just approved their first bear season this year after 5 years of wrangling. And overall, to give you the bigger picture, there's 900,000 plus black bears in North America. And just about everywhere they occur, managers and biologists believe that they are stable or increasing across their range. Now, we've never done an actual formal survey talking to people to see what they'd say, but I can tell you what my clients, the people I deal with, what they indicate. And the people that I've talked to, I have not once yet came across somebody that says, no, we don't want to hunt bears. Most people ask me, when are we going to start doing it?
Wow.
Now, again, some anecdotal information, but when we were doing the majority of our research back in the 90s, or I'm sorry, in the late, from 1999 to 2006, we had a lot of large males. I don't think this is a surprise to anybody, but 1 in 4 of our males was 400 pounds or more. And when I say that, I'll make the point that an average black bear in North America, across North America, is about 300 pounds. You're over in New Jersey, you get a 300-pound bear. That's a very big bear. And the one on your right there was up by Hobart Lake, and it was over 500 pounds. And not all garbage bears. Genetically, I think we have some big bears, which, speaking from a hunter's point of view, I think that would be desirable. Obviously, they target large males. If the board chooses to establish a season and asks us to go forward, there are just a couple points I'd like to make. There has to be a commitment to continued population monitoring. Mark recapture, whether it be with tags and tattoos or tetracycline marking or something along those lines. But we have to monitor this bear population to see what effects the season is having on it. Potentially, we'd be looking at evaluating that data every 3 years, maybe every 5 years. We're looking at percent males, percent females, recruitment, survival, all those types of things that I already mentioned. The other myth, I think, that is out there is that it would solve our nuisance complaint issue. It would not. There may be an occasion where we could send a tag holder to an area where they're experiencing bear problems, but the conflict issues, as it says right there, is a result of human sources of food in these urban areas. The lack of effective ordinances mandating bear-resistant trash containers. That's going to be the only thing that really solves the conflict issue. And give you some quick numbers here. Last year alone, $60,000 in damage caused by black bears. Almost all of that was up in Incline Village. And a lot of that goes unreported. Our costs alone, just for drugs, traps, trap maintenance, etc., in the last 5 years is a little over $57,000, and that is not including my time or vehicle costs, things like that. Operating expenses for the most part. Now, if we choose to do this, in our management plan, we do have some management objectives. And one of those is adaptive management techniques. And again, we monitor this bear population, and whether or not we go forward with a season, we would still continue to monitor that population and make recommendations based on changes that we see. Maintain population at current levels, if that's the desire. Maintain current distribution of bears. We once had bears across the state. Is there a desire to have bears in some of those areas once again? If you do, you're looking at increasing the hunting opportunity. So those types of things we would consider. Travel corridors, habitat, again, reducing the bear conflicts. And these are just kind of off the top of my head, and after talking to Cameron and talking to Larry, some of the things that we would kind of kick around out there. Obviously, the Carson Front has the highest densities of bears. They're hunted on the California side. They hunt the Tahoe Basin. They hunt the entire Sierra Nevada. California, I believe, is killing about 1,700 bears a year. The Sweetwaters, again, they're hunted on the California side of Unit 201. The pine nuts and wassocks, we'd have to consider that. We'd have to look at that. Obviously, we would give protection to females with cubs. Females are the leading edge, if you will, of the bear population. They're the ones that make the difference. So we're going to protect females if we can. We're going to protect the female cohort. Low female quotas, 1-800 information line similar to the mountain lion, things like that. Mandatory check-in. Of course, all these things are still up for debate. This just kind of give you guys an idea of what it would look like. Dogs, yes. Bait, no. And dogs, yes, but understand that would require legislative action. And if it's not done this current year, then we're looking at 3 years before we'll be able to do that. So basically, just real basic summary, upward population trend based on 20 plus years of data. Clearly an upward trend in that. Season is justified. I think regulatory and biologically we can do it.
Good.
So the question is, where do we go from here? And with that, I know it sped through it pretty quick, but if there's any questions.
Mr. Chairman?
Hey, Mr. Howell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That was a very good presentation.
Yes.
And I'll tell you why I really liked it, because it confirms all the data I put together. And if I could, I'd like to read this into the record, and I'd like to give Mr. Lackey a copy. I didn't know he was going to be the one giving the presentation. I'd just like to read this. Because of the numerous complaints and encounters with black bears over the past many years, it is time to have a season. The objective will be to condition the bear population to be wary of man and thereby move away from urban population centers. All the states bordering Nevada have a bear season and their populations are stable. What we are proposing is meant to have a limited effect on the overall population and to reduce the number of encounters with the public. And I want to give you some statistics. California issued 24,805 tags in the last reporting period and took 1,900 bears for a 7% success rate. Oregon issued 29,077 tags in the last reporting period and took 989 bears for a 3% success rate. Idaho issued 36,851 tags in the last reporting period and took 2,660 bears for a 7% success rate. Utah issued 338 tags in the last reporting period and took 150 bears for a 44% success rate. And Arizona issued 5,950 tags in the last reporting period and took 263 bears for 4% success rate. And I've listed some suggestions that need to be discussed and revised and maybe enhanced. And my suggestion would be, based on the numbers, and Mr. Lackey's, I think, substantiated it, we could possibly have a quota to start with of 100 bears. And the possible counties affected would be Washoe, Story, Douglas, Lyon, and Mineral. The hunt units and maximums per unit to be suggested by NDOW. A tag fee of, for a resident of $50 and non-resident $150. The time frame, I think, would be around the month of April. Any legal weapon hunt, and I put no baiting or use of dogs allowed. And I think we're ready for comments.
Okay, well that's comment. First I want to check, see if we, actually, this is just informational. Just if there's any questions, and then we'll move on. It's just information, go ahead.
Yeah.
Earl?
Carl, I may have an old statute here, but 503-150, my copy shows that the only animal you couldn't, what is it, 21G says any big game mammal, what you can't do. I'm sorry, it is unlawful to hunt any big game mammal except mountain lions with a dog of any breed. So you would have to include bears in that area in order to be able to use bears. Is that correct?
For the record, Rob Bonamici, Chief Game Warden, we would not need a legislative change, because if you look at 503-150, number 1, unless otherwise specified by commission regulation, it is unlawful to hunt. So the commission could pass a regulation that allows hunting with dogs.
Like that.
I'm glad we have somebody that knows something about law present. All right, any further questions in this informational item? We have a question down here, Mr. Vogler, and then we'll see if anybody else.
You're kind of answering it, Mr. Lackey. You do know that they outlawed dog use in Oregon on cougars and on bears, and the ranchers in eastern Oregon are experiencing a phenomenon. The lions have gotten so gentle and so non-fearful of man, they're starting to kill their cow dogs when they're out buckarooing in the woods. That's a bad deal, where in the state of Nevada, if you got a chihuahua that'll bark at a lion, it'll go up a tree. And I wonder that if we don't allow dog use, we might get a little kind of a benefit from it. It may put the stampede on a few of those garbage can bears when the dogs start barking. You know, I mean, if they wander around that much, I'd sure want to have dogs included in the hunt, and we could issue fewer tags because they are encroachment areas, and have a much better season and a higher success rate with dogs than just wandering around. Because when I go hunting in Oregon, I buy a bear tag and I buy a cougar tag, but in 30 years, I've never filled either one of them. Unless you have dogs, the success goes way down.
That's why I included dogs, was because of the success rates, for sure, and some conditioning that's going to happen, yeah.
Excellent. Any
But
best question? Mr. Lackey, I'm sure we're going to hear this in the future, but questions? Mr. McBeth?
Carl, any idea on a quota?
I would cautious at being very conservative, because this is new. We can change it down the road, but I would say be very conservative and see how it goes. You know, population estimate of 200 to 300 bears, obviously we're not gonna be going out and killing a whole lot of them. It would have to be conservative and again, monitor that population in 3 or 4 year increments to see how it responds.
Is 100 too many?
Yeah.
Depending on the success rate, if you had dogs, didn't have dogs, all those things all factor in. No? Okay. Mr. Lamp?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to direct the department, have you direct the department to come up with a quota and a regulation at the next commission meeting on a bear hunt.
This should be on item 24, huh? Future commission items?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's, could hold that suggestion for 24.
Thank you.
Questions? Okay. Seeing no further questions, move on to Wild Horse Update. More informational. Steve Siegel.